right?
I don't know. Oh, yeah. So what you been reading?
Well, let me tell you. Hey, go do the last one.
It could be.
Yeah. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine talked to me about a book. Actually, it was a series being done at a church, and it was all about technology and our addiction to technology and just generally slowing down. And the book that was kind of being used in that process was this book right here, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's by John Mark Comer. So I purchased the book, and it's a very easy read in terms of just reading through it, but applying some of it is still something that I'm trying to learn how to do. So I read it and started to ponder ways that I could implement some of these things to slow down and to give my mind more space. And then I gave it to Tina, and I think you read it.
I just finished it last week.
Yep. And so one of the first things that we took from it was that we wanted to implement a Sabbath. And I always think of a Sabbath as Sunday, but obviously with the schedules that all of us have in today's world where we're hurry, or you work on the weekends or you have off Mondays, we didn't want to be legalistic about it. We didn't want it to make it be that it had to just be Sunday. And so for us, the best thing in terms of a Sabbath, and we'll talk more about that, was from Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. And that's assuming that we don't work Saturday morning, which we didn't last week. So last week was our first Sabbath, and Tina can tell you a little bit about what we did or didn't do during that kind of 24-hour period.
Yeah, so Friday night at Sunday, we powered down our phones and put them away out of sight. And we just kind of sat, and I think we were reading books at that point. I was probably still finishing that book because I hadn't completed it by then. And we read for a while. So there really wasn't much time left in the evening to do much that evening. It was just basically reading, drinking coffee.
We talked a lot.
That night we did talk a lot. How could I forget?
We stayed up till 11:45 talking. And that was the first lesson, really, that not that we don't talk, but that we found ourselves kind of talking about things that maybe just get talked about in passing. It was an extended period of time, even though Tina has forgotten it. It was about an hour to an hour and a half of just talking. And I honestly, I can't remember what we talked about specifically, but it was more just about, I think some of it was just about, what we were going to do during the 24-hour. General Sabbath for us was to be disconnected from our phones, generally from technology. I mean, again, it doesn't mean you can't watch a TV show. For us, we just didn't want to have a 24 hours where we just binge watch TV the whole time, or
Which sounds delicious.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a time and a place for that. That's really what I think we took from this. It's not that any of that is bad or wrong. It's that we generally, a lot of us default to that. You find yourself, like after a long week or a long day, you just sit down and you get on your phone and you look at Instagram or you look at Facebook, or I could look at the news, or you can look at YouTube, and suddenly you go down that rabbit hole and you just keep looking at something else, which leads you to something else, and the next thing you know, you spent 2 to 3 hours going down this rabbit hole, and it's time to go to bed.
Yeah.
And you could have used some of that time in a more productive way, however you define productive. I mean, it could be reading a book, it could be journaling, it could be playing your guitar,
Mm-hmm.
it could be just doing nothing, which is a really remarkable, unbelievable kind of concept in today's world.
Well, and I think because we've had our phones for some time, it's just there's so much information on it, and we even had trouble, like when we were talking that night
Mm-hmm.
about some things. We had a question about, well, what is such and such? And it's like, well, we can look it up. It's like, no, we can't look it up because we don't have Google right at our, hands. And so we've gotten so used to just taking information in and in and in. It's good information. It can even expand your mind and learning, but it's just constant this barrage of information influx. Whereas when we were younger, even raising a family or growing up, you just had these periods of time where sat and did nothing, or just waited until you had something to do, and it wasn't as if you constantly had to have information at your fingertips to feel entertained and fulfilled.
Well, I think that's when you said to do, that's what's funny is that we found ourselves trying to figure out what we needed to do during the 24 hours. And that kind of defeats the purpose of the Sabbath really is you really don't need to have, and you probably shouldn't have, a general agenda. So again, there's nothing wrong with, doing some laundry, but it's not, for us, the Sabbath kind of means not necessarily like cleaning the entire house because we have 24 hours to do it, and doing deep clean, because otherwise you're back into the mode of hurry, hurry, hurry. And the whole idea really was to slow down. One of the things related to the Sabbath was that you can't just have a Sabbath, again, in our case, a 24-hour period where we slow down. You should have moments and times during the week where you have those Sabbath kinds of moments, like more of those than you normally do. So as an example, in my particular case, what I did was I removed from my phone, I removed social media kinds of things. Like I'm probably most commonly looking in terms of social media, Instagram. And I would find myself looking at my feed, and then I'd find a funny video and watch another one, and again, it's that rabbit hole. So I removed it from my phone. Now, if I want to log in and look at pictures and things, which again, nothing wrong with that, it just requires me to do it on my desktop or a laptop or my iPad or something. It's just harder. I didn't have any notifications on my phone, but I know that's a big deal for some people. Being beeped when you get an instant message, or when a news feed comes in. So I even removed, in my case, although I don't get notifications, I removed all of my news except for one app. And what I've been trying to do, and I've done pretty well in the 1 week that we've tried to implement it, is looking at the news feed or a social media type of thing. Like I have Facebook, but it's hidden away in a folder, but trying to do it like once a day for a certain amount of time on it. But just trying to take in more of those Sabbath moments where I maybe normally would, look at a feed for 15 to 30 minutes, maybe looking at it for 5 minutes. Because there's nothing wrong with looking at a funny video, it's that you just don't want to be doing that all the time. So trying to implement Sabbath moments throughout the week is, to me, the next kind of the application of that.
But it's so funny because even when we were practicing the Sabbath with our phones turned off, I would walk into the kitchen where my phone is, and I just had this urge just to press the home button. It's like I just wanted to check to see, had anybody texted, and just fighting that urge just to push the button and just to have my phone in my hands was like breaking a non-thinking habit, something that's just, you do it without even knowing that you're doing, you just reach for it.
I find it easier today, this is our second Sabbath. I find it easier today to not have that tendency to run to the phone, to check something. Whereas last week I'm kind of like Tina, I kind of found myself just wanting to push that button to see if I needed to attend to something. Because I like closure, I like to get things done, and if there's an email, I want to get it done right then.
Yeah, so the first Friday before we did this, I kind of had a feeling of trepidation, like not fear because I wasn't afraid of it, just like, what's this going to be like, a very questioning kind of feeling. And then last night, knowing this was coming today, I had a feeling of anticipation, like I was looking forward to it more because obviously I'd been through it one time and got through it successfully, and I thought we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we
we worked together. We're kind of together constantly, like 24 hours a day, and so even though we work together, we don't actually have lengthy conversations just because we're busy doing other things. But I found that last Saturday we talked more and more and more than we had in a long time.
Well, and brainstorm things that, that are fun to brainstorm. So as an example, like, what's next in our life? I mean, whatever we're doing now, we obviously can't do forever. And so it's important for people to spend time just brainstorming, like, well, what does the next phase of your life look like? What's the next adventure look like? And those kind of things. And not that one Sabbath Friday night is going to solve all that, but it's already kind of spilled over into, like kind of little moments during the week. And now that we're in our quote second Sabbath, we find ourselves picking up a little bit where we talked and left off, and just thinking, just brainstorming more, just having that downtime, forcing. It's like what we used to tell our kids. Our kids would sometimes, when they were little, they would come in and say they were bored, and we always just laughed about that because boredom will lead to creativity. And we tend to, as parents, we wanted to always fill that void, like, well, try a book or try this or try that. But eventually we learn to just disconnect from that and just say, if you're bored, that's your issue.
Yeah, you'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. And we as adults, just like kids, boredom, we need to feel boredom sometimes, because like when I woke up, I remember last week, I was like, woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning and I'm thinking, I've got 12 hours that I can't, I don't want to go down and do anything related to work. I'm not going to be looking at my phone to what am I going to be doing? And I just found myself kind of drifting into creativity for me, and doing things that I normally just set aside. I mean, they don't get done. I mean, it's literally been years since I sat down and brainstormed about like where my life is and where potentially we'll go next.
And I've had certain goals. I mean, just. And this has been, I've talked about this before, of minimizing our belongings, because as you get older and you've had 3 kids that they've grown up and moved away, but not all of their stuff went with them, that we have a lot of things for my mom when she passed away, and so we have a lot of things, maybe not as much as many people that have a larger house, but I found myself last Saturday going through some of those things that I've had and have held on to, and I didn't let myself like work on it, but I did go through some things that I've had for a long time and flushed some of those things away. So
well, and that's part, again, there's a lot of different sections of the books. We've kind of focused on Sabbath because that was the big kahuna that we wanted to attack first. But there's a lot of, you like that word? Yeah. But there is a section on minimizing and simplifying our lives and just making things not so complicated with so much stuff and all of that. And we've kind of been on that journey a little bit, obviously. I mean, you've seen videos and blogs of like doing our photos, and Tina's been doing clothes and journals and those kind of things. So that is an important part of eliminating that sense of hurriness and just what happens, I think, using us as an example, is you don't just go from, you don't just acquire stuff like all at once. It just happens because we're just so hurried doing other things in our life that the next thing you know, you have boxes of things and boxes of things. And so by slowing down, it gives you time to really process, do I want that in our life? Do we need that in our life? And now that we've acquired some of these things, now it gives us some time to really process through, what's a priority, what do we really want to keep, as opposed to just hurry, go to bed, get up, go to bed, go to work, that's the life that I feel like that many of us lead.
It's so full that you don't even have a concept of how full it is of things.
It's a good exercise, and again, this vlog isn't designed to, take this book and tell you everything about it. It's just, for us, the main thing we took from it really was the Sabbath, and to really implement the Sabbath. So one thing that we've decided to do is to not be open our business ministry on Saturday mornings anymore, allowing us that freedom to have from Friday night to Saturday night. And again, people can be like, oh, I want you to be open and things, but really we all have to take care of our own mental health and to really, I believe, slow down. I mean, I just feel so rushed and hurried, and again, nobody to blame but myself. But technology and all of that can be wonderful, but can also just mess with your mind, and you're just constantly looking, thinking, doing, and not even taking the time to even figure out like, what are we going to do next weekend, or what do we want to do next year? How about the next 2 years? Those kind of things. So I'd recommend the book.
Oh, very much so.
Recommend the book. It's good. There's, again, none of it's rocket science. It's things that we've all heard, read, know, but actually implementing some of it. And again, you might find that you don't want to implement, go to Sabbath, but maybe you want to implement some of those things like taking notifications off your phone. It really does give you some real freedom. And I look forward to, it's kind of like Tina said, I look forward to today with anticipation and not trepidation about, like, what am I going to do with these 12 hours left in the day? I find that exciting.
Yeah.